your glasses have blue in them. So you're good. So you can be part of the club. You can sit next to
We're live. Glad everyone in posterity can hear our conversation about Mike's blue glasses.
I'll see. And then here comes John Austin.
You're right here. All right, this is the time. Welcome everyone to the Park Authority Board meeting of September 11, 2024. We got a pretty good agenda this evening, so we're going to get right into it. Turn it over to you, Ken, for the Planning and Development Committee meeting.
Okay, I'll call the Planning Development Committee to order, and I guess you're it, Brendan.
Thanks. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Brendan Hannafin, the Director of Development for the Park Authority. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm going to go over briefly the progress we've been making on the Langley Port acquisition, the grant land transfer from the MPS. As you all know, it's been a very long and drawn-out process. It's going along until we discovered that one of the parcels that we were going to transfer to the MDS, they could not take because of old deed restrictions based on some covenants. That kind of stopped the process for a while, and then we got back together and started working on it again. The land exchange is we took that parcel up, parcel F, and now we are exchanging a little less land for Langley. In 2018, the land exchange agreement was signed. We felt that it would be obviously updated with more information, so we are ready to sign that document, and it's gone to the fully vetted by the partners, authority and the international partners and all their. So we actually are ready to sign it. So I just want to let you know that tonight. And, that's really all I have.
Does anybody want to clap? Do you feel like there's a like a
show up with a piece of paper?
Just while we got it, like
Ken and I have been here since the beginning of this thing.
I will point out that's not quite the end of the process. There are a few more check boxes, boxes to be checked, but it is a huge step.
Yeah.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah. We were told this was going to happen in 2015.
It's just a
Wow.
Put a point on what Ken said. We made the new appraisals are need to go still, and the title search. But we're expecting that to all be done this fall. There'll be a little bit of a delta between because of the change in the amount of land that we'll have to work through. We do have a budget for that, and I'm hoping by early next spring or even this winter we'll have it completed.
Brendan, we don't have to bring it back to sign. We can just
we can sign.
We can sign. So we'll bring cupcakes with LF. They'll be sitting on your table, so you'll know it'll be the sign that everything has been.
It's actually
finished.
done.
Yes.
Thank you all. I appreciate your support.
So you said we have a little bit of money to make up for whatever the difference might be.
Yes.
Where might that money be coming from?
You authorized it.
Okay.
We authorized it in 2003.
And Tim, just to be clear, we're not supporting you. It's that guy before you.
All right.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, well, we look forward to that.
Thank you.
Next item.
My name is Alex Burke, project manager with the development division, project manager for the Lake Acatake Dam assessment, for which received the scope approval today. Understand you received the action item prior to this meeting. We're working very closely with the resource management and interpretation division on this project as they manage the waterfront parks and properties. And sorry, Laura Grape, who was going to be here today, is identified as the dam owner of the state program. We are moving forward with their requesting the scope approval for this project first and foremost, because it is our dam, it's our asset, and we're required to keep it in safe operating condition. The last time an assessment of this step has been performed, as I understand it was back in the 1990s. It's about 80-year-old dam, so it is about time to do so again. Park Authority staff had been looking to perform an assessment similar to this previously. But if we want to wait until see if there was any definitive action taken on the dredge itself. But in January of this year, the Board of Supervisors,
The owner's here.
the owner is here. In January of this year, the Board of Supervisors asked that we move forward with this assessment concurrently with the sedimentation rate study, community engagement plan, and feasibility study. DPWS is leading these other studies with Park Authority input. Similarly, DPWS is providing input into this assessment as well with their specialty. If I can direct your attention to this picture for just a moment, there are a couple of terms I'll be using in some of the coming slides that you may or may not know. This picture is of the concrete spillway of the dam Lake Acton. The water flows over the spillway. On top of the spillway are these boards referred to as the flash boards. They are used to keep the water level up an additional 2 feet. Water flows over the boards, over the spillway, and then down into the concrete Stillen basin. Stillen basin is essentially a concrete pool, captures the water that slowly releases it into the stream below. The assessment is ultimately going to analyze the integrity of the existing dam and then identify any deficiencies that we need to correct. Our consultants will identify those, what needs to be repaired, provide us specifications and cost estimates, and we can plan future projects to repair the deficiencies. What to expect? The most impactful process that we're going to go through is thoroughly assessing the concrete elements of the dam, because they need to be completely dry for the thorough assessment. And in order to do this, we're going to need to draw down the lake approximately 3 to 5 feet, similar to what was done about a year and a half ago when the flashboards were replaced. And you can see a picture of the upper left-hand corner of what that looked like. So you can expect to see some of the lake bed visibly. Prior to drawing down the lake, we will install temporary fencing around the dam and the marina and post signage asking people to please stay off the lake bed because it could be hazardous with the mud and the muck. Also, we'll have just some information while we're doing this in this presentation. It'll have a QR code to a press release that could be releasing as early as tomorrow. Just for general public, the signage will also be placed at other access points around the lake. Once the fence is up, we'll have a contractor come in and remove the debris from the top of the flashboards to protect the flashboards from any damage that could happen when we start lowering the lake level. We'll have a diver come in and inspect the sluice gate to ensure it's safe operation so we can lower the lake correctly. Once the lake is drawn down, which might take up to 10 days, depending on how far we can get it, because we have to operate it at no more than 6 inches per day is the best standard practices. We're working with another group within DPWS to help us remove fish and wildlife from the Stillen basin prior to us completely draining that, clearing the debris, and then finally having our consultants come in to the operation. So this is all work directly related to the concrete elements of the dam. There will be some less impactful operations going on with the earth embankment, which would be to the right of these pictures. But that's going to be more day-to-day activities of forage, not nearly as impactful or exciting for the public. So, and this operation is extremely weather dependent because we need the concrete to remain dry. Weather permitting, we're trying to get the work done in September, October, November of this year. We're picked that time frame to avoid any damage to the ecology of the lake that could happen if we draw down the lake during the winter months, and also trying to avoid any impact to the recreational uses of the lake that happen in the summer. At this point, the marina is already closed. We won't have any more impact to trails, pavilions, or carousels in the park. We expect that this full assessment will be done by early summer 2025. for everyone's review. Funding for this operation has been identified in park bonds in the amount of $450,000. And I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
Any questions? If there are any issues that we find, where's that funding gonna come from to repair or replace?
Well, hopefully, any issue, I'm gonna start. Hopefully any issue, there's two different types of dam issues. It's the only thing we're doing, right? Like if they come back and say, this is a problem, like it's not what the funding comes on, we gotta fix it, and that's the whole county, in which case we go to the county and say, this is an absolute emergency, we need to do this tomorrow type project. Then there's regular wear and tear, in which case we need to know what's there so we can be putting it into conversation about the 2026 bond if a major structural issues are needed. That's kind of the two. I don't know if you guys want to jump in. Right, yeah. But if they come back and you get the call, it's like somebody's it's like everybody. It's a fire drill. But we're not planning on any work right now. We're just trying to assess. To put it, I mean, any structural work, we just need to know what the what is, so see what the time frame or what the age is of the dam, and so when any conversation about the lake needs to factor in. And I'm speaking at term, so you guys continue.
We're just really looking at this at this point. It is going to identify any deficiencies that we have and provide us cost estimates so we can plan on anything in the future. This won't. I mean, there might be some more immediate work that might be done just if it's standard, as Jay pointed out.
When's the last time we did this?
The last time that I've found was in the 90s. So it's been quite a while.
Wow. Yeah, quite a while.
The draining is going to be for the full assessment. So we won't have the lake with water in it potentially again until late spring.
No, sorry, if I don't make that clear. We're drawing it down just for the assessment of the concrete elements. So we're hoping that by Thanksgiving, the lake will start filling back up. And for it to completely fill up, it's all obviously weather dependent. We get a lot of rains get fill up pretty quick. Last time we did this about a year and a half ago, it didn't start flowing over the flashboards again for about another 2 months.
Is it possible we would find a problem there that would make us unable to reload the system?
To rebuild the lake?
Yeah.
I would not foresee that. I don't know what that could do. If nothing's blaring to us right now, I can't imagine.
I hope not. Like that would be.
Well,
right?
that would be her emergency.
That would be the emergency.
Yeah,
like if
that would
they
be-
fall in and that they come in and they say don't, like it is it's a
collapse in 3 weeks. So
is that a high hazard? What's the hazard? It's a high hazard dam, so it is, yes.
Have we come to an agreement with the state on how it's classified? I thought there was some back and
Oh, you're
forth on
right.
that.
There was.
We're still working on that, and that assessment is being managed by the Department of Conservation and Recreation.
Okay. And this has nothing to do with that, does it? Okay.
But this is really doing our due diligence for our dam.
Is there any cycle for this work? You said it was done 1990. But
the dam safety program does require an engineering inspection on a routine basis, and so we are working that into our more routine management of the lake. But an assessment of this scale, I don't believe that there is a routine schedule related to it.
okay. Any other question?
Yeah, just if there's no routine schedule. Yeah, just so I understand, why are we doing it now? What caused you to say now we need to do it if there's no? It's been X number of years or whatever.
This is related to the board item that came out. The board of supervisors board item.
And I'm talking generalizations. It usually, and please correct me if I'm my experience, it usually is around when the life cycle of the dam is over and you're trying to figure out how much longer that you have, because you don't want to go in there and replace the dam and the dam still has 20 years left on it. And so it's not done. You don't build a dam and then do it 5 years later. It's more about when you're trying to make decisions, because dams aren't cheap in general. So it's usually sort of that time where it's like, okay, we need to do a full, it's like physical, we're gonna do the MRI, that we're gonna do a full, so we know exactly when we're gonna need X amount of millions of dollars to do the thing. I think that that's what triggered this, is when we're talking about it, you can't talk about what the future is if the dam needs to be replaced in 3 years.
When we're talking about all of Lake Acatee, we're just doing
Yes.
this stuff to put a better understanding of that.
Yes, you have to understand the age and the quality of everything before they make decisions on stuff.
Where are we in this life cycle?
How old is this thing?
So this dam's about 80 years old.
And what's the life cycle of the dam?
That's
That's what we're gonna find out.
Question.
It's the $1 billion question if,
Right.
without the magic ball, it's hard to tell. That's why we do these inspections. So we can say if there are serious defects that could cost a lot of money, it's up to a big decision to be made.
Yeah,
Just what happens.
As somebody who is not a dam specialist at all, it just sounds like, oh wait, it's 80 years old. We did this in the 90s. We're doing it now. We don't know what the life cycle is. You do it later in the life cycle. It just seems like one of those things where it would be like, oh, it has an X life cycle and we should do it 30 years in and 20 years after that. And it just seems odd that there's literally no, like a better way to say it, science behind the wait, we gotta go check out this dam. Well,
As Laura mentioned, there are engineering inspections that happen on a
Right.
regular cycle. That's
Right.
every 2 years because we're on a conditional assessment currently because of the state classification is uncertain. But so the deeper dive that this is proposing, and that was done in the 90s, we staff have been looking at doing this early because during those regular inspections, engineering inspections, we can see cracks falling in the dam, and that's a lot of what was replaced and repaired in the 90s. So we can see it's a lot of the issues that were fixed back then, we're starting to see again. But this is why we're looking at doing this anyway.
no, that helps. Thank you. Absolutely.
Any other questions, comments? Consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. There's nothing else before the committee. We are hereby adjourned.
Thank you. And we are in recess for about
You're on, Mike.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quincy. We are coming together tonight to review just a couple of slides again to remind the Park Authority Board where we are in our process. And then we will work through Ben Boxer and our public process here tonight. So where we are, of course, we're now in the late August, September timeframe. Tonight, we have our public comment. We are also continuing to accept public comment via email and the web until September 20th. Mr. Quincy, at this point, we have received, I would say, about 50 emails that have engaged on the topics that we brought up through this process so far. Good. And we will be bringing those into the record on September 25th. Good. So just to remind everyone where we are in this process, the package of non-recommended budget reductions that has been put forward has been in response to the county executive and the Board of Supervisors requesting this process so there are different tools to work with as the budget is developed. This is not final. This is what we're putting forward and asking the board at the next meeting to endorse as we move through this process, and will be submitted, and then we'll find out really what happens with it as we get through February. So just keeping in mind that's part of our communication as well with all of the email items that we've been receiving, that we've been reminding people of that this is just the beginning of the process, and we happen to have a public process associated with this. So our target is just over $3.5 million, about 10% of our general fund budget. And one of the questions that was posed by the board at our last meeting is getting a little bit more context about the positions that have been taken through the most recent couple of years in the budget process. We were talking about the 2 vacant positions that had been put up as part of the potential reductions this year. So this gives you an idea of really what's been happening. This is a trend as we've been moving forward. You can see in FY23, yes, we did have some positions added, We also had 5 positions that were reduced, and you can see that they were maintenance positions and an admin assistant position. Those were targeted reductions, as all of these are, based on long-term vacancies. And as Sarah explained in our last conversation, we try to move around those positions that we use, so we don't necessarily have some that are absolutely vacant for a long time. We don't have funding for 100% of our positions. No department in the county does. So this is part of our strategy, but nevertheless, you can see in FY23, we had to give up 5 that we had held vacant for a long time, and part of that was to help offset the costs associated with our mowing contract and some of those other maintenance items that we've talked about in the past. FY24, yes, we did receive 6 positions. As part of the budget process to get to the FY24 adopted, we had 2 positions that were eliminated, again, based on long-term vacancy. And then I have 2 more listed there in italics because those will be up for elimination as part of the carryover process that'll be coming up this fall as well. Same thing, long-term vacancies, everybody has to give up something. So we're seeing an overall either reduction or at least no net increase with the merit position numbers throughout the county. We also had, as part of this process on the general fund side, 22 temporary 900-hour positions that had not been filled in some time as well. Those are also given up, but those don't really show anywhere as far as the number of FTEs out there. It's again just showing part of the process that we're cleaning up these vacant billets, so to speak.
Mike, before you move off, the 2 that are in italics, part of carryover, they part of the county exec's recommended carryover package?
Yes.
So we would anticipate losing them. Okay.
Yes. That was part of the process when all of the guidance came out as far as the budget was concerned. That was one of the first things that was worked through this summer as the carryover package was being put together.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
So again, you've seen this. This is the overall lift, and Sarah's going to talk through some of these pieces and some of the changes here in just a moment. $3.5 million, $3.564 million, slightly above what the goal is for this. We've gone through this. We presented it at the last meeting, and this is really what we've been receiving public comment on at this point. Sarah?
So based on feedback that we received from at least one board member.
That'll be me. I'll take the
they asked us to take a look at potentially taking the summer concert series off of the list. And so we are proposing a change to the cut list that would remove the summer concert series and then replace it with, if you can go to the next slide, 2 items. One, we would increase the amount of money that we WPFO to bond projects. That's work performed for others, which would decrease the amount of money that we are able to spend on projects. So it increases that, I think, about $59,000. The next item we would increase would be the general park and facility maintenance funding. Again, this is funding that was increased last year. And we're proposing to increase that slightly so that we could take concerts off the list.
Does that, just want to understand, that restores the concert series?
Correct.
Actually exactly where it is now?
Correct.
Because there was some discussion about the different districts, so I just wanted to.
Correct, yes. No, there would be no change to the summer concert series if we add these 2. And so this,
but there's a note to that because we did we get the carryover? Did we get the money didn't we put money in for summer concert series that we needed for the?
We did receive 150.
Okay, so we got that. Okay, sorry.
So this is the updated list. We weren't planning this evening to go through all the items again, but we have them available if there are any items that you would like to talk about in detail. We have those slides. So this is the updated cut list with the 2 additional increases and summer concerts removed.
That'll make my discussion with my supervisor much easier.
What does that mean? Make the discussion with the supervisor much easier.
Any other questions, comments?
Well, I guess the first one is, does everybody agree with with Kyle's change? We just want to make sure. Not that it
Yeah, I
was-
guess otherwise, if there's consensus, I guess this will be what we look to endorse in 2 weeks. If not, I can always make a motion in 2 weeks and it goes up or down depending on how people feel that day, but so I don't know.
I guess I'm not sure we should keep it harmless, which is what we're suggesting. We can't get a nature center back, but maybe there are other things we could do that might be personnel specific. Because what we need is we need the staffing in the field to do the work. And if giving up a few of the concerts in order to get that staffing in the field, it makes a lot of sense.
I gotta tell you, I don't offer any great options or anything like that, but cutting more out of maintenance that we've been just literally trimming and trimming and trimming for decades. And one of the things that we don't do great already, I mean, we do great for what we have and what we're spending on it, but overall not great. Again, I'm not offering a solution. I'm just saying I hate to trim on that anymore. Just my input.
I think, I think on the other hand, I mean, this is, the summer concert series is sort of like saying you're gonna close the Statue of Liberty or something for the National Park Service. I mean, it's something that not just the supervisors like, but certainly the populace very much enjoys. And I think we want to retain the support of the general populace as going into this. So I tend to agree with Kyle that I would look for. I mean, I have to agree with Linwood that the other alternatives are distasteful, but I think in my view, it's the right way to go, and I would support the changes.
Any other comments, questions?
So
I have a question.
Go ahead.
When we put these cuts forward, are we gonna explain? I mean, would we be able to also offer some explanation around, like, we've been cutting maintenance for, you know, and what this is gonna, like, the reality of what that's gonna look like, the reality of losing some of these other things, how that's gonna impact?
So part of what we submit will include impacts.
but there would also be an ongoing conversation over several months with staff talking about, as I understand it, if we do this, what if we do that, as across the street tries to understand as well.
Right.
So it's not just a piece of paper that is a good advocate, it's Jay and Kyle and blaming Kyle if it doesn't go right.
We can say, you almost got your summer concert series slashed, but then.
Exactly.
The one thing that does strike me about the summer concert series is that it might be like the process we went through with porta potties for a while, where we kept saying, oh, we're gonna cut all the porta potties, knowing we were never gonna cut because they were so popular and across the street was never gonna cut the porta potties. I wonder to what extent the concert series will be seen that way in terms of how, you know, you guys know that it's liked by the public so much and we do all this stuff. Do you really think we're going to do that? And so just having it on the list actually undercut the seriousness of it a little bit. That would speak to doing what you're suggesting. I hadn't given a lot of thought there, but that's something to think about.
But we've already published the first set without this change. So we've got comments and we will continue to get comments. Is there a mechanism whereby we can identify these two as alternatives? Because we already have people saying, don't do this, do this.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to publish a new set saying we've changed our minds. It doesn't.
Well, we've not endorsed and sent anything across the street yet, so this is by no means final. And again, like I said earlier, there's not consensus tonight. We don't need to change it. I still plan on making a motion in 2 weeks, and we'll see where that falls.
And I'd point out that as Mike said, the record is going to be kept open until the 25th until the act and endorse the final proposal. Non-endorse and endorse the FY.
All gas from Jello at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's going to be no matter what we change.
It's gonna be squishy, it's gonna change.
Is there a good way?
Establish a baseline and go from there.
Is there a good way to document the evolution of that so the Board of Supervisors has some high level idea of the different things we considered and the conclusions we drew?
I don't see why we couldn't do that when we meet with them in the fall. I mean, I don't think we could do that in the, correct me if I'm wrong, in the, because the document we actually send over to the budget office, I think has to be the document.
Yes.
But I think when we have conversations with the board members, I don't see why we couldn't, assuming this change went forward, that this is where we were and then we did this.
We're still fluid at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's going to sit for a significant amount of time because we have no idea what the projections are. So it's going to go over across the street and D&B is going to have it. And there's not going to be a lot of working through it until they start honing in on that, what the projections actually look like. And at that point in time, we'll start having, when the county executive starts looking at it, and we'll start having those conversations, because we don't know whether or not they need 2% across the board or if they need 10. We have no, and he doesn't know. Nobody knows exactly what is needed right now. They need to have it for the exercise though.
Okay, other questions, comments? Okay.
All right, so we've reached the public input session of our meeting this evening. Mr. Chairman, I'm the Public Information Officer for the Park Authority. My name is Ben Boxer. We have 7 speakers who have signed up to speak in advance tonight. But before we get started with that, I do want to go over some general housekeeping. First, if there are members in the gallery who have not signed up but would like to speak, I invite you to please sign up on the sign-up sheet here on the podium by the main entry door. And we'll go through our pre-sign-ups, and then we'll go through those that remain. Just a note for everyone in attendance, this evening's public input session time is limited, and we will need to conclude prior to the full board meeting, which is scheduled to begin at 7:30 p.m. With that in mind, we ask each of our speakers to please keep to your time guidelines. We have 3 minutes per speaker for those representing or those speaking on their own behalf, and 5 minutes for those representing an organization from the community. And I'll be happy to be timekeeper to help me keep the meeting moving, keep everyone on time. We'd like to have, what I'd like to do is invite our first speakers 1 and 3 forward. Our second speaker should be online, and we'll introduce them at that time. If they join us, I don't see them yet. But if Ms. Toddy Carnes could come forward, and we have Greg Young, if he could come forward. Oh, sorry, Greg George Young, I'm sorry. Come forward. Toddy will be our first speaker. She is speaking on behalf of the Friends of Historic Huntley, the Friends of Colburn Run Mill, the Friends of Frying Pan Farm Park, the Friends of Green Spring Gardens, Friends of Homewood Run, and the Friends of Huntley Meadows Park.
Thank you. Chairman Stone and esteemed members of the Fairfax County Park Authority Board. Friends groups as just named. Thank you for this opportunity to provide input from the Park Authority staff recently released FY 2026 budget materials to the Park Authority Board meeting at which they were publicly briefed. As Friends of our Parks, our most important current objective is to increase staffing at the site level. The second most important goal is to reduce our parks' reliance on the revenue fund because it leads to an emphasis on sales rather than service. Regarding recommended budget reductions, the Board of Supervisors and the County Executive only recently began the work of incrementally increasing the Park Authority's general funds budget to offset years of underfunding and to put our parks on the road for one day receiving full and proper funding. From our perspective, any budget reductions will effectively nullify the recent corrective increases. Accordingly, we concur with characterizing all proposed reductions as non-recommended. Regarding site level staffing, we implore you in exercising your oversight authority to find out exactly which, if any, Park Authority general funds positions are currently frozen from fill in order to fund other Park Authority needs. And I noticed we were just informed that it's true in all agencies that there are positions that are not funded. And I would just say that several years ago, the county executive informed us that all the positions were funded. So that's why we think it's important to identify those that are not funded so we can know what's going on. On the subject of budget cuts in relation to the revenue fund, it is shocking to see a nature center and an historic site, as well as multiple personnel positions identified as potential budget cuts. It is, however, understandable that these expenses are being offered up as cuts rather than transferred to the revenue fund. As earlier noted, over-reliance on the revenue fund has essentially forced the Park Authority to prioritize chasing dollars over resource stewardship and community building. Transferring further liabilities to the revenue fund would only aggravate this problem. The Board of Supervisors FY 2026 budget guidance, directing that the Park Authority's funding structure be studied, must be heeded. This guidance says, quote, county staff in concert with the Park Authority Board are directed to review the current funding structure of FCPA to determine if there are alternative approaches that could be considered to improve park services, facilities, maintenance, and further address equity. The board recognizes that these changes will require significant fiscal resources and organizational change and expects any recommendations to be phased in over multiple years. We understand that a contractor has been retained for the purpose of addressing equity funding, but we have seen no evidence that a wholesale review of the Park Authority's funding structure is underway for the purpose of improvement of park services, facilities, and maintenance. We would like some assurance that you are considering potentially paradigm-shifting changes. That is the scale of change requisite to the need. Moving on to budget requests, we certainly support the Park Authority's proposed full implementation of its zero waste trash removal and recycling program. Finally, we broach an issue that may or may not involve a need for additional funding, ensuring that all PAB members can be heard by those attending PAB meetings virtually. As we watched the last PAB meeting either online or on video, there was a side of the meeting table from which PAB members could not be heard. It was obvious that both PAB members and members of the public attending virtually could not hear all that was being said. We would hope that adjustments at the current meeting site, this site, could be made to rectify the problem, but if not, perhaps PAB meetings could be moved to the government center where all participants could both be seen and heard remotely. Again, we thank you for this opportunity to appear.
Thank you, Toddy.
Our next speaker has signed up as a virtual participant. So we'd like to give a call to see if Ali has joined us. Ali is not listed on our visit. We'll come back to Ali as we go through the list this evening. So we'll go ahead and move on to our next speaker, Mr. George Young. He will be representing the Friends of Hidden Oaks this evening for 5 minutes. And he'll be followed by Mike McDonald.
Good evening. I'm George Young. I'm sitting in for Kevin Holland, the president of FOPONC, the Friends of Hidden Oaks Nature Center. Kevin is out sick tonight, very unexpectedly. I contend that the proposed budget proposal of closing a nature center fails to reflect the true cost of such an action. The proposal lists a loss of 100,000 visitors for 2 closed sites, mainly through the elimination of student field trips, and does not include lost revenue. So I've got these numbers, I'll run through these, but I'll just hold this up so you can see them. Using Hidden Oaks as a nature center example, the closure of the site would realize an annual loss of approximately 9,450 school children and adults, 31,000 plus walk-in visitors who do not pay a fee, not including trail walkers who benefit from the non-personal interpretation that don't enter the building and even get counted. 770 Boy and Girl Scouts, 400 summer day campers, 3,800 birthday party participants and guests, many first-time participants to any FCPA park, 1,800 Park Takes program participants ages 2 to 99, 900 rentals of the facility, 900 participants coming in for rentals. It's a total of over 48,000 lost estimated annual visitors to a tune of about $225,000 in revenue. However, the effects go beyond visitor and revenue counts. The Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Access Plan, or PROSA strategy, was adopted by this board in 2023. This plan provides a framework for providing equitable access to the park system, enriching habitat connectivity, and prioritizing recreation needs using an equity lens. These strategies are mission-centered and support the agency's values of enhancing stewardship, fostering diversity, developing partnerships, and providing quality and value. Hidden Oaks is the epitome of an urban walkable access community gathering place. The center staff provides opportunities for passive and social recreation promoted by PROSA, with free use to nature place, outdoor play area, multiple public art features and programming, including the free and popular Walk with the Police Officer. Hidden Oaks staff support the PROSA strategy of enriching habitat connectivity. The staff leads scouts, adult, and teen volunteers in eradicating invasive species and providing education regarding native and wildlife habitats. PROSA uses an equity lens as a cornerstone for parks. Hidden Oaks 2003 bond-funded exhibit Urban Woodlands, Habitats and Havens focuses on the multicultural visitor base. The exhibit text is translated into Korean. The indoor reading corner and outdoor trails interpretations are bi or trilingual. The Nature Center staff are dedicated to educating underserved students. With grant funds, Hidden Oaks provides free, meaningful watershed education field trips. It's called MeWe, including the cost of buses to over 2,500 4th, 5th, and 7th grade students from Title I schools. The site partners with local community centers to provide after-school nature exploration and environmental literacy programs. For the last 2 years, the Colmore Second Story Teen Program has visited multiple FCPA parks each summer and fall for experiential learning activities coordinated by the Hidden Oaks staff and its partners. Hidden Oaks is a community hub. Through partnership with other county agencies, generous grants from Northrop Grumman, and service organizations such as Rotary and deep connections with Fairfax Master Naturals, Hidden Oaks exemplifies financial and environmental stewardship. The site paid and volunteer staff personify diversity, boasting a diverse volunteer corps of 189 individuals from ages 13 to 85. The site is an ideal environment for teens to develop skills and talents that inform their ideals and career choices. With the 2024 value of a volunteer work hour of $31.80, the volunteer contribution at Hidden Oaks last fiscal year of $135,977 is staggering. I contend that Hidden Oaks is not a feasible reduction option based on the board's commitment to the agency's mission, values, One Fairfax, and PROSA. And for the record, no nature or history site is expendable. Remove the option to close a nature center and a history site from the proposed 2026 budget and honor the agency's mission and values and commitment to PROSA. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Our next speaker is Mike McDonald, excuse me, and Mike will be followed by Joe Dambia.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. And hello, members of the board and esteemed professional staff. My name is Michael McDonald, and I was speaking for myself tonight. I'm addressing the entire slide because I've managed every site that you're talking about at one point or other in my career. I was hired by the Park Authority in 1983 by the History Division as a section manager and retired after 40 years in front of this group as an RMD park manager. During my career, I sometimes made some folks a little uncomfortable because I was willing to speak truth to power. But to respond to the county's executive request to propose 10% cut from each agency, the Park Authority has included shutting down one nature center and one historic site. Perhaps the hope is to create enough public pushback that the BOS will insist on removing that part of the proposal, but that might not happen. I was managing Hidden Oaks in 2003 when the Park Authority Board proposed closing Hidden Oaks and Riverbend for budget reductions. The BOS accepted the proposal. The public outcry was huge and swift. They really had no knowledge about it until April and spring. But it was too late. And for 3 months, from July through October of FY04, I, with my reduced teams, was tasked with managing both newly closed parks running up and down the Beltway, reducing local staff hours, and strategizing new operating missions for each of those two parks. Due to public anger, this mishmash was overturned by the BOS in October, and both sites were eventually fully reopened. From our hard-won experience in 2003, I guarantee some certainties from this new 2026 proposal. Here's what you get to look forward to during the next 8 months. Employees focused on trying to figure out among themselves who has seniority, since the RIF process will only start with the 6 merit positions and not account for the position incumbents and their rank and order of seniority in the agency or the county, in fact. Employees checking their resumes and contacts in private sector jobs, which they previously turned down for FCPA's lower pay, perceived stability, and importance of mission. Employees stressing that they'll be the actual position cut and eventually targeted for extermination and elimination, perhaps jumping ship prior to the end of the process. That happened in several instances in 2003. We had employees saying, I can't wait, I can't handle the stress, I'm gone. Though the sites on the slide remain unnamed, in my view, the use of 4 lovely photos in the PowerPoint slide, including one of a child interacting with a new play pump at Hidden Oaks' Nature Place playground, is in fact a dog whistle targeting Lee County citizens who have loved all these historic and natural places for more than 5 and 6 decades, with the goal to perhaps motivate them to get out and protest. Well, congratulations, here we are. However, employees themselves do not see this proposal as a chess game or a parlor game. They rightly view themselves as professionals in pursuing their love for teaching new, fresh minds to make important and educated stewardship positions and decisions about the future of Fairfax's cultural and natural resources. Remove this proposal for closing a nature center and historic site now. Do the hard work of finding the nearly $2/3 elsewhere, or tell your BOS members to search elsewhere in the county for general funding to make up for this. I appreciate your time, but you can sum up. Do this before you lose those precious resources and employee trust has completely vanished. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike.
And certainly, a reminder for all of our speakers, if you have not yet, we'd be more than happy to have a copy of your testimony. Be sure that the entire written record's added to the budget record. Our next speaker is Joe Dombia. Did I pronounce that correctly? Excellent. And that'll be for 3 minutes, and then she'll be followed by Lydia Lawrence for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Very glad to be here. I'm Joe Dombia. I've been in Mason District for over 30 years. So I'm speaking on behalf of my journey in Mason District. But I need to say that I'm truly surprised by the offering and no offerings of the Fairfax County Park Authority to the Board of Supervisors. I'm amazed to see that your offering clearly highlights community exposure to safety risks and yet offer them as options. For instance, stopping the damage, tree management, or the lack of trail maintenance. Not grateful to see that the few free options that the community has, such as the summer concerts or access to nature center and nature centers and cultural centers, are earmarked for reduction or elimination. I have gone to the Ocean Hall Park summer concerts since before the park was built, which happened in 2015. My husband has been the volunteer MC for these concerts, and so I have followed him since 2005. By the way, this is the only park where international concerts are offered. Every Saturday during the concert season, I have seen elderly people, many of them in wheelchairs, families with neurodivergent kids coming to enjoy the program, progressively seeing African, Latino, Middle Eastern, families from all different backgrounds coming and enjoy the free concerts. I have also been a volunteer at Hidden Oaks Nature Center for several years. And I can tell you what I have seen from my perspective as a volunteer nor with the wisdom and the knowledge of the guys who follow me behind the numbers and statistics. There is amazing the number of little kids that are constantly nurtured in the beauty and magnificence of nature. Progressively, more and more visits from families of non-American backgrounds, developing that comfort and that sense that, this place is also for them. The joy that you hear from people when they learn that this is free, that people don't have to pay for it. And speaking from volunteer colleagues from other nature centers, the feeling is exactly the same. I haven't made any discovery. This is really what is happening, all the dynamics of the community relationship with the nature centers. These examples led me to think and consider other point of this offering, no offering. It appears that there has not been any regard on the significance of the unfair and unjust impacts on the most vulnerable. These communities have access to these programs either because they have the proximity and they can walk, and so they go to these programs, or they don't have money and they have a place to exercise that enjoyment as anybody else. I wonder whether in this exercise you have assessed the worst affected, or this is an across the board. This is an across the board dynamic. The most affected will not be to come here. They will not be commenting. So the possibility of extending the public comments and to facilitate outreach for people to comment on this, I think that is a good thing. And ultimately, my invitation is for you to consider the terms of this offering, so you don't make it that easy for the Board of Supervisors to sacrifice the few gains that the Fairfax County Park Authority has made throughout the times. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
Our last speaker on the list that I have for pre-registers is Lydia Lawrence, representing the Fairfax County Parks Coalition for 5 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lydia Lawrence, and I am the chair of the Fairfax Park Coalition. I want to thank you for having me today to comment on both the budget cuts proposed as well as the budget priorities. The Fairfax Parks Coalition has been thankful to walk hand in hand with many of you sitting in this room to achieve in 2 years $2.5 million over and above what the county executive initially proposed in these budgets. And before we came on, people said that was not possible. And we see what is possible when we speak and have conversations and plan and fight for what we know we need as a park authority in serving our constituents. The 10% cuts, our stance is that the park authority has nothing to cut, which I'm sure you'll all agree on. It does not make sense from a business standpoint to cut 10% from the entity that receives less than 1% of the overall county budget. Quibbling over $100,000 out of over $4 billion is really not going to make our county meet its goals. But I realize this is an exercise that we have to do. So as my predecessor said, cutting a nature and historic site has huge implications in our community and is not worth the $600,000 to get to the $3.5 million, especially on the impacts of Park Authority employees, much less community members. I have full faith that Park Authority board member Mr. Hackman will receive a lot of feedback when Scotts Run Nature Preserve parking lots are closed as a member of the Drainsville district. But I also want to highlight trail maintenance and tree maintenance. These are funds that I just saw in previous years, Park Authority Board presentations on how we are only maintaining our highest risk trees, and that presents a danger to community members. And I can only imagine how much more money we will lose if we're cutting $200,000 worth of contracts and people's property or themselves are being injured from a lack of maintenance to these trees. And we talk about equity, how many Fairfax County members have to walk or bike to our concerts. And we're cutting half of the trail maintenance budget, which trail maintenance is not done a lot of already, and we're cutting that in half. Finally, for budget cuts, I really worry about putting 750 or whatever number we land on in general fund salaries into bond funding. In previous presentations, we've heard about that the bond that was granted to the Park Authority isn't even enough to do what we need to do, not counting the rec centers. But then we also see precedents for previous times we've switched general fund salaries to revenue funding. That money never came back because the Park Authority figured that out themselves. So my concern is that we're looking at over $700,000 of general funding never coming back because it's an easy cut and you guys solved it. Regarding budget priorities, we are thankful for the request for expanding the zero waste program as well as park maintenance. And to the park maintenance point, I would like to add to that the importance of urban and neighborhood parks. These are our small pocket parks that our community members, often in the lowest income areas of our county, rely on just for the smallest access to green space that they can walk to. And many of them aren't as well cared for as they need to be because we don't have the maintenance staff. I'd also like to advocate in regards to maintenance staff, trail maintenance. Last year, I heard we only have 2 full-time trail maintenance staff dedicated to planning trails for our over 300 miles of trails in the Park Authority. We need more. And finally, we encourage the board to work towards making its IMA fund focused on being fully controlled within the Park Authority. That's not an answer that can come this year, but I encourage you to develop a plan. And finally, I want to reiterate my point that it takes every single one of us. It takes advocates talking to community members, you all, board of supervisors. But I also encourage each and every one of you, if you're not talking to your supervisor who has appointed you, we need you talking to your supervisor. When the Fairfax Parks Coalition talks to the supervisors on behalf of the Park Authority, we always ask, have you heard from your Park Authority board member? And the answer is not always yes. And we take note of that. And we need each and every person in this room advocating so that none of these cuts are made. Thank you.
Thanks, Lydia.
Thank you. I do want to circle back and see if our virtual speaker, Ali, has joined us. Ali, if you're on, can you signal? All right, we'll come back. We do have an individual who's joined us this evening and signed up. I'd like to turn 5 minutes to Mr. Tucker Newberry, representing Miller Heights Neighborhood Association.
I don't know.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Tucker Newberry. I live in Providence District. I've lived there for 33 years and live in the Miller Heights neighborhood. And I told Miller Heights Neighborhood Association that I would be here. I'm involved in a number of the initiatives that we have for the parks. But I also come as an individual to try to give you more of a flavor of the appreciation that individuals throughout the county have for the park. So I think I'm in a park every day and sometimes twice a day, at a rec center. In my case, I live next to the Difficult Run Stream Valley Park, but have been to probably 15 of the parks and have volunteered in building and maintaining trails in Lake Fairfax, and doing park cleanups. I happen to be an IMA volunteer leader, and I'm responsible for over 1,500 hours of managing IMA projects in the Difficult Run Stream Valley Park, work with the Oakland Community Park, and have maintained a network among other IMA site leaders. So I'd like to promote the IMA program a little bit more, maybe give you a little insight into what it's like on the ground with IMA, because I see that's one of the items on the cutting board. There is a lot of education that goes on, not just about a plant to take out or a plant to put in the ground. We dedicate quite a bit of our time to educating the public about the value of parks and native plantings. It's an incredible outreach. We have a lot of diversity, equity, inclusion candidates from all over the county that come, for example, to our park in Oakton. And it's a community building entity, the IMA program. So it's a lot more. And so I ask you to consider the power of the volunteers that you have. I've been to your volunteer events, and I know there's volunteers all over the county for the Park Authority, but think about the magnifying effect that being able to manage more volunteers would have. For example, with the IMA program. But there are other opportunities too, trail maintenance. We see the trees that may not be significant, but affect travel through the park. There's volunteers there that can help supplement your own staff with maintenance. A lot of neighbors do that on their own without even coordinating with the park. The ability to report encroachments. My own experience is that the Park Authority doesn't have the resources to follow up on encroachment reports. Volunteers can help out with that. And then one final comment about cuts on mowing. IMA program, we're interested in reducing the amount of space that you have to mow. There's certainly many opportunities to turn grass space into native meadows and grasslands. So reduce your carbon footprint and reduce the amount you have to mow. I think that's all I want to say. I just wanted to give a little flavor for what it's like on the ground for an individual. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We do have some individuals participating in the meeting online. I just wanted to give a couple opportunities. First, if Ali has joined, if you could raise your hand, we'd be happy to take your comments. All right. If there is anyone joining virtually who would wish to speak, if you could raise your hand by selecting that from the reactions menu, we'd be happy to have you speak at this time. Right, hearing and seeing none, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn the time to you.
Okay. Thank you all for coming and giving us your comments. It's most appreciated. If there's nothing else before the Budget Committee.
Ken, before you adjourn, I just want to say thank you to everyone who came and spoke this evening. Not only for your advocacy, but for the work you do in the park. You're all volunteers, just speak on behalf of, but you actually roll up your sleeves and do the dirty work in the parks. I understand that no one is happy with any of the cuts we're proposing. No one around the dais is either. I don't expect there are $3.5 million worth of cuts that anyone would be particularly happy with. So if it's not these, there'd be another dozen or so that you would also be displeased with, and I appreciate that. And I think all my colleagues would feel the same way, but it is an exercise we are required to do. Something will be submitted to the county come the beginning of October after we endorse the non-recommended cuts in 2 weeks' time. We do have another week, Ben, right? September 19th of testimony. And that's kind of a bit of a misnomer of a date. That's just the cutoff for when it'll be collected by staff and presented to the board on the 25th as part of a package. Certainly continue to reach out to us after the 19th. We will continue to take those comments. And please stay engaged throughout the whole process. A lot of you are veterans of this whole operation. We know there's a long way to go between now and May when the budget is finally adopted. We'll see what cuts are actually part of the county executive's proposed budget in February. When we were here this time last year, we had to propose 7%, and we weren't sure what it would look like for us. It ended up being that nothing was on the list. And I think that a lot of credit goes to many of you in the audience and on the screen, also to my colleagues. We did a good job, I think, last fall communicating with board members the impact those cuts were made. It's our we intend to do the same thing again this fall, hopefully to similar results. I think the only thing else I want to say is the full information related to our budget packets online. Take a look at that. Again, thank you for your time, your support of the parks, and for coming out today. Aaron, I'll turn it back to you.
Linwood.
Just real quick, I'd like to make the point that you probably already know, but I'll say it anyway. Thank you for helping us do our job. Our job's a lot easier if there's people behind us that we can say the public is behind us with this. So thank you for being here, and thank you for helping us do our job.
Other comments? Well, before I adjourn, thank you again for coming. The Budget Committee is hereby adjourned.
All right, and then we are in recess till 7:30 with the start of the formal board meeting.
All right.
Eddie Griffith.
Okay. Whatever channel is the license to you.
Is that what I have, Verizon? AT&T official clock, but yes. Are we on?
It's also back.
All right, boys and girls, we are back in session. Before we dive into it, I got a couple members joining us remotely that I will read in. Good evening and welcome. I am Chairman Kyle Stone, and I call the September 11, 2024 Park Authority Board meeting to order. Virginia law authorizes remote participation of board members, provided that a policy exists to ensure that such remote participation is consistently administered. This board has approved policy 111. Any such remote attendance must be approved by the board as long as a physical quorum of the board is actually present. Voice of the remote participant is able to be heard by everyone in the room, and the remote participation comports with the policy. So first, we're going to verify that the remote participant's voice is clear, audible, and at appropriate volume for the meeting room. So we got two, like I said, and we'll start, Faisal, with you. Faisal, are you connected to this meeting remotely?
There you go.
All right. I should have looked up at this screen and noticed that he wasn't there. So let's start with Dr. Carter. Dr. Carter, are you connected to this meeting remotely?
Yes, I am. My name is Cynthia Jacobs Carter, and I am joining from my residence in Franconia District.
Thank you. I move that Dr. Carter's voice will be adequately heard in this location.
I second.
All in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. We're still... You got nothing from Faisal still?
Just texted him.
All right. I'll give him 30 seconds. I don't have to come back and do this all over again.
There he is. There he is.
Yes.
All right. Faisal, are you connected to this meeting remotely?
Yes, I'm at my residence in Providence District.
Thank you, sir. I move that Mr. Khan's voice may be adequately heard in this location.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Second step is to verify that the remote participant's physical absence comports with the policy. Pursuant to the Park Authority's Policy 111 for remote participation in public meetings, I move that Faisal Khan and Dr. Cynthia Jacobs Carter be permitted to participate remotely in this meeting because it comports with the policy we adopted. Any physical quorum is present here at the Park Authority Boardroom, 9th floor, Harity Building. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. We can now get into it. Kind of a light agenda this part of our meeting. Administrative item number 1 is the recommended adoption of the minutes of the July 24th, 2024. Actually, Ben, we don't have any speakers, right?
No, we do not.
We did that already. We're all out, fresh out of speakers. All right. Administrative item number 1 is the recommended adoption of the minutes of the July 24th, 2024 Park Authority Board meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. We have one action item this evening in the Braddock District. Action item number 1 is the recommended approval of the project scope for the dam assessment at Lake Acting Park. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We have one information item this evening. It's the addition of the deer management plan as presented to and reviewed by the Resource Management Committee on July 24, 2024. Chairman's matters this evening. I do want to get everyone this on their calendar as far in advance as we can. Last week, we confirmed with the Board of Supervisors that we're going to do a joint meeting on December 10th at 9:30 a.m. Allison, do we know the location? I'm assuming in their normal, whatever room that is. I don't know what room number that is. But once we have that, something like that. When we get that confirmed, we'll send that all out to you. But again, joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors, December 10th, 9:30 a.m. Right now, that's all that there is about that meeting. When we get more of an agenda or what we're going to do there, I will present that as well. Other thing I wanted to mention, I don't know if anybody gets this, but this is Virginia Wildlife Magazine, which comes out a DNR. I'll do a little plug. If you join DNR's DWR, yeah, they're not DNR anymore. DWR, they have, oh no, I can't think of what the thing is. Anyway, if you subscribe to this magazine, you will have seen right in the very beginning a very nice spread on Huntley Meadows Park. This is a cool surprise to see in the magazine. This goes out to people throughout Virginia. So it's a really nice article about the nature in the park, about how we maintain it. Just want to shout out to Chris King, who's mentioned here, and the whole staff at Huntley Meadows. It was a cool article to read. And also subscribe to this magazine. There's any money you get to this goes into a pot of funds for DWR, what they call something the wild. I can't think of what it's called. Dang it. But anyway, it's like a slush fund. Slush fund's a bad word. It's an unencumbered fund for DWR to put money into natural resource management projects, which similar to us, we don't have a lot of funding for that. So anywhere they could get that elsewhere is nice. You got the magazine?
So that we can get money for our natural resource management.
I don't know. Can we? Deidre, can we do a magazine?
Yeah.
Park Takes? Yeah. It's a little different.
Come and talk,
That's that's a little different than this. But anyway.
I want to read that article.
Well, subscribe to the magazine.
Oh, stop. You're not going to write about Huntley Meadows every time.
And send it.
All right, we'll scan it and send it. I'll share this with Jay under penalty of death if I don't get it returned to me. She'll scan the article and we'll send that.
I will absolutely be the one scanning the article.
Allison will scan the article in for Jay and share it with the board. That's all I have. Jay, the floor is yours.
Thank you. That was only said in jest because I don't know how to do that. Okay, Director's Matters. While she's getting that up, I'm going to start off by talking about hold on, I'm gonna read because it was September what's the date? Help me, Sarah. Oh, what date did we do the cleanup?
A week ago.
4th. Okay. So on September 4th, we had a cleanup of an encampment over at the Mantua Park. The Park Authority was working on this for several months. During the past several months, community outreach workers met with people experiencing homelessness who are currently residing in the Tower, Theus, and Mantua parks. They assessed their individual needs, and I'm reading our statement, and connected them with customized services. We underwent the process of closing encampments at the properties for non-permitted camping, and that began on August 28th, where we posted no trespassing signs, and the notice identified September 4th as the cleanup. Again, this was done with a group of, we alert to the issue, and by issue, there was a number of health issues that occurred there that resulted in transport of people who had overdosed on that location. And so we started having conversations with the Office to Prevent Homelessness, county security, police, us and everybody for months, just to talk through the best course of action. Again, as I read, we may community outreach workers had made contact, and it resulted in us doing cleanup, posting the no trespassing notices and doing a cleanup. You know, we take this as a serious endeavor, and I'm not in any way making light of the seriousness of it, but I will say I do want to also commend the staff that were here at the rodeo, who were tasked at going in there and cleaning it up. It was a huge Herculean task to do, and they handle it with grace and everything. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. I don't know if anybody, I don't do questions here. Okay, we'll continue on. You guys can ask questions during your thing. Next slide. Okay, MLK Lifeguards received a commendation. Lifeguards Catherine Rainey, Aiden Haladu, Xavier Farrow, Dennis Velasco Torres, and Stephanie Delgado were presented a letter of commendation for outstanding life-saving efforts, because on June 17th, a resident was found in the bathroom unresponsive with shallow breathing. Staff recognized this as an acute life-threatening emergency and initiated emergency response. The team's actions directly contributed to the residents' positive outcome. Again, you know, if you pay attention to, I'll say all the time, these kids, I call them kids because a lot of them are very young, like literally save lives on the road. I have nothing but the utmost respect for lifeguards at our sites, all of our staff, but they just amaze me every day. Next slide. Speaking of staff who amaze me every day, Cox Communications recognized outstanding employees at Lake Accotink. But they recognize a group of employees for their contributions to the park system and the park experience enjoyed by millions every year. Nominations were received from all over the county and included everything from promoting welcoming and positive environments to responsive customer service. Those who are recognized are pictured here: Adam Wynn, William Douglas, Ginger Cologne, Keith O'Connor, and Dan Grolke. Okay, Rain Can't Drown 74th Annual 4-H Fair and Carnival. Every year, this is a fantastic event. It's a collection of exhibits, rides, animals, and entertainment. Thanks to all of the board members who showed up for the event. It featured our very popular Big Truck Night, 100 Mile Melodies concert series, obviously animals, and the fair. It was featured on Channel 7 News Grillin' Out segment. Celebrates the 4-H program. Our estimated attendance was about a little over $20,000 people, which is not bad considering that it was rained out by 4 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday, and it was super hot also. So we estimated about $64,000 to support 4-H. Oh, we got the fire chief out, and he got to milk, bottom right, got to milk a cow for the first time ever. So he was tentative, he was a little questioning at first, but yeah. Next slide.
It was a highlight of his career.
Yes. Summer Entertainment Series Roundup, building communities, promoting social connections, and enjoying memorable performances during the 2024 season. So we had 198 performances, 4 outdoor movies, 11 local series, 18 venues, a little over 40,000 estimated attendees. We had 26 rain cancellations, and the Fairfax County Park Foundation raised $189,446. Next slide. Outstanding summer camp season. Summer camp is over. Kids are back in school. Sometimes they're not in school, but we can talk about that later. 1,371 active programs. We had an 80% fill rate, which is outstanding for our in-person camps. A little over 30,000 registrations. That totaled about 13,000 distinct customers. We average about 2.3 enrollments per customer. In the access and inclusion front, we had 489 total requests. We made accommodation plans for 214 requests for 72 kids. 19 diabetes management for 7 kids, inclusion 162 requests for 62 kids, and 19 family provided support for 7 kids. Our inclusion staff are really great at what they do, and they go above and beyond. Next up. Next slide. Yeah.
Can you define fill rate? Like there's 100 spots and 80 people took them, or what does fill rate mean?
Go ahead.
Fill rate, 80% fill rate. Yeah, basically the doctor's
Okay.
Next slide. End of an era, RecPac's last season, 2001 through 2024. So the summer 2024 season, we had 10,962 registrations in 28 locations, 113 access and inclusion requests for 27 kids. Really, this has been a extremely popular and extremely well-loved program. 24 years of excellence. I just want to reiterate the fact that the decision that was made to combine RecPac and Camp Fairfax is sometimes they make that decision because something's bad and it's not good and it wants to subsume it by something else. That's not the case here. This really was a phenomenal program. Just having 2 very similar programs did not make sense. And so in 4 years of excellence, registered weeks of RecPac, 383,000, you guys are really going to get me to tongue tie, 383,469. We served 95,428 kids. Scholarship weeks, 170,495. We provided scholarships for 33,629 kids, 3,836 counselors in training, which is a really important sort of a little preteen school age childcare is really what it is. We provided lunch sites at 278, average family paying reduced fees, 70%, average cost per child per week, $55.43, and more than 6,000 staff have worked for RecPac. So great, I say happy trails, but they're in good hands in NCS. Next slide. Dog Days was better than ever. The 2024 Dog Days was a huge hit, 987 canines of all breed sizes and abilities, and we had about 2,000 humans. Began in 2016 to give owners a unique opportunity to enjoy a premier water park with their 4-legged friends. We had 2 separate swimming areas for smaller and larger dogs, and we partnered with numerous organizations and service providers over the years to include, canine resources covering topics from adoption and dog food to recreation and behavior training. Next slide. The 24th annual lifeguard competition, which is a really awesome event. Each year, this event brings all of our sites together to recognize the fantastic work of our Corps of Lifeguards. It had a fun Disney animation theme and a judging panel of 8 professional firefighters this year. 54 competing lifeguards, 150 spectators, and the Watermine won this year, first place, followed by Cub Run, and then Oakmont won the Spirit Award. Next slide. 2024, I love Golf Fairfax photo contests. So this summer, we got about 60 submissions from golfers, photographers, depicting their stunning landscapes and action shots. Entries included quotable segments about what Golf Fairfax means to our players. There's 1 junior and an adult winner were selected at random to receive a pair of tickets to the 2024 Solemn Cup. And so these are some quotes that were found on there, which is just a really great thing. We forget, not forget, but it's really important how important all of our parks are to so many of our residents. Next slide.
Oh, yeah.
And this is literally hot off the press. That's the blue shirt that I'm wearing today is the Rodeo 2024. The rodeo is spelled road EO. It's actually a maintenance competition that we talked about last year. It's a maintenance competition where maintenance folks can compete in different categories like zero-turn mowing, backhoe, skid steer. And so they compete, and first, second, and third place gets to go to regionals, and the winners there gets to go to nationals. And so we swept the skid steer event, which I think is really, really great. Jordan, Dylan, and Dan, first, second, and third place. And then Greg Greenhow, right to the second to the left, got third place in CDL skills. But we, so those folks are headed to the regionals, which I believe is in Ocean City. And that's really great. Like first, second, third, skid steer. No, skid steer, right? Yeah, skid steer. Really great. And I think that's it because we were just there together. Next slide. That's it.
Michael?
We have a closed session.
Ron?
I guess I don't want to mention September 28th, we're doing Public Lands Day. And we'll be at White Gardens on that day. I want to thank as well as the frogs.
I'm tired. So he's not coming.
Not seeing that you went.
Everybody looks like they're on mute.
Can you mute everybody?
Yeah. Okay. We good?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm done.
Okay. Jonah?
Us.
Linwood?
Yes.
Abena?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
Ken?
So yeah, so just go at. Oh.
Sorry about that.
Ken?
Real quickly, I just want to second the comments that Jay made about the cleanup of Mantua Park. I visited them the 4th. Never been to a homeless encampment. It's quite an eye-opener. And kudos to the staff, our staff, as well as the contributing staff of the other entities that were involved for doing such a great job in cleaning the place up. And working up a program to maintain it, which is going to be a challenge because the people will keep coming back. So they've done a great job. That's all I'll say.
Thank you, Kim. Tim? Faisal?
I'll pass.
Thank you. Dr. Carter?
Pass.
All righty, then we will go into closed session. Dr. Carter, do you have a motion for us?
Oh.
Okay, maybe not. Hold on.
Yeah. Can I not go into closed session?
I guess.
Okay, sorry. I didn't introduce. I was supposed to introduce. We have 2 new staff that are here. I just want to do it before we go so people couldn't leave. So I wanted to introduce Diane. Say hi. Diane she's probably the most important person to you guys in the room. She's going to be the new Allison. So she is your lifeline to everything, and we're very happy to meet her. So absolutely, please talk to her on the way out and get to know her because she's going to be your person. And then Torsha in the back. Torsha is our new park planning and stewardship division director. I think we talked about how we did an org chart and we split. Took the natural and cultural resources and put them together with planning and acquisition to form a new division. That's Torsha's division. And then the development side is going to stay, the actual building stuff is going to stay under Brendan. And then the sites will be moving with Laura under Sarah. So it's a little bit, so we have all of our operations stuff in the same side of the organization now. So please, if you haven't seen or talked to them, Torsha and Diane. Sorry.
Welcome both of you. Diane, has Allison told you how many times a day I bother her?
Not yet.
Might want to reconsider. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that bad. All right. Anything else you're forgetting?
No.
Dr. Carter, do you have a motion for us?
Yes, I do.
All right.
This is Cynthia Jacobs Carter, and I move the Park Authority Board recess and convene in closed session for discussion and consideration of matters enumerated in Virginia Code 2.2-3711 and listed in the agenda for this meeting as follows. Discussion or consideration of the acquisition of publicly held real property for a public purpose or of the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711 A3 and A6. Discussion of the property in the Sully District adjacent to Historic Centerville Park. And second, discussion of lease agreement for Park Authority property in Springfield and Sully districts.
Tim Hackman, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. We are now in closed session for approximately 15 minutes, and I don't believe that.
You say you don't.
All right. And people back in from the virtual wait. Allison, do we have the virtual waiting room reopened? Okay, but it's open. All right. Dr. Carter, you have a motion.
This is Cynthia Jacobs Carter, and I move the Park Authority Board return to open session.
Hackman, I second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. I would call for certification of topics discussed in closed session. Dr. Carter?
This is Cynthia Jacobs Carter, and I move the Park Authority Board certify that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements prescribed by the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and only matters identified in the motion to convene closed session were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by the Park Authority Board.
Hackman, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I need to do a roll call for this. Sorry, that's right. That's a change.
Yep.
Roll call vote. Abena.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Bill. Dr. Carter.
Aye.
Linwood. Aye. Tim.
Aye.
Ron.
Aye.
Faisal.
Aye.
Ken. Mike. Jonah. All right. Right. The motion did carry. Allison, am I doing this one, or is this back to me, or is this still with Dr. Carter? Okay, it's back to me. All right. So the first item discussed in closed session was the authorization of the offer range for property located in the Sully District. Do I have a motion?
To authorize the offer range for property in the Sully District was discussed in closed session.
Second.
All in favor? Does this have to be a roll call too, or is this the one coming out of? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. And then the second item in closed session was the lease agreement for Park Authority property in Springfield District. There was just discussion, no action taken on that, so no motion is necessary. Allison, do you have anything else for us this evening? All right, then at 9 p.m., I adjourn our meeting. See you all in 2 weeks.
We had an hour. Done closed session during